Wow, here we are again, folks. Brother Peter with the word. Listen, if God took 70 folks of Israel, 70 people went to Egypt out of Israel, and they were there to be saved from the famine that was in the land in Israel. And if God did that, he could do it again. Can you imagine what 70 real Christians could do on this earth today? They could make this earth multiply into millions and millions of Christians if they would do it. Just think, when Jesus sent his 12 disciples out, they turned the world upside down. Everywhere they went, they made other disciples. They made more and more and more. And we are a descendant from that. We are a descendant from the 12 disciples that goes about. Let's look at 21 facts about God in the book of Deuteronomy, in the Old Testament. The fear of the Lord your God. We are to fear the Lord our God. He is the mighty one. He is the all-seeing eye. He is the all-knowing being. He knows you and I from the inside out. He knows our thoughts before we have them. He knows us, and he knows how the devil will come along and derail us if he can. And the heavens belong to him. 21 facts about God, verse 14. The heavens belong to him. Wow. He made them. The earth belongs to him. He spoke it into existence. All things in the earth are his. He put them all on here. He delighted in your fathers, verse 15, talking about those that came out into the wilderness, those that went into Egypt and came back out with thousands of people after they went in. And he loved your fathers. He delivered them out of Egypt. He chose their seed after them. He gave commandments, verse 16. He is the God of gods. There are many gods, but only one true God. And he is that God. He is the Lord of lords. He is the great God. He is the mighty God. He is the terrible God. He is no respecter of persons. He cannot be bribed. He executes judgment for the fatherless and the widows. He loves the stranger. He provides for him. He is your praise, verse 21. He is your God. He has done great and terrible things. Wow. For you that you have seen. He has made a great multitude from 70 souls that went into Egypt. 70 of his chosen people went into a foreign land, and God brought them back out in one piece with hundreds of thousands after that. They multiplied. God used Egypt to give them grace, if you please. The Egyptians would not venture down into the land where the Israelites were, because they were herders, and the Egyptians thought it was a curse to be a herder, and they wouldn't go near them, so they wouldn't go down there and where they were. And so we see that God, at times, the Lord separated the tribe of Levi to bear the Ark of the Covenant. Now, what was the Ark of the Covenant? That was a picture God made, this Ark of the Covenant. He said, I will dwell in that Ark. And you could not look in that Ark, you would die. You could not touch it, you would die. So it was on 2 staves, and it was a gold-covered wooden box. It weighed a lot, but it had to be carried, always carried. And it wasn't supposed to be put on an ox cart and rode, but it was supposed to be carried. So they had troubles because they were disobedient to God sometimes. If somebody touched the ark, he died. Well, here we are today in a whole modern world, and we are called Christians, and we have been Christians for several years now, and we are to take the gospel to the world. And right now, the way we're taking the gospel to the world is on this computer. And this has to be accepted now by 77-year-old men like myself. I have to accept it as the way to do it, and the way to get out, and not that I would be known, but that the gospel of Jesus Christ would be known across the earth. And this goes all over the earth, and so everybody can get the gospel through this. One of these days, I'm going to lay down in a casket and go to the grave. Not many days from now. You say, why is that, Brother Peter? I'm healthy as a lark, but that's beside the point. Age comes along, and age takes precedence, and it will cause your body to shut down, and you'll have to be either cremated, in which I'll be cremated, and I lost my wife. The Lord carried my wife home. I didn't lose her. He took her home a year or so ago with cancer. And the devil touches bodies with diseases, and they die. And that was God's will. And so I have to relate to that as God's will, and I have to keep going. Just keep going. Can't quit because I lost my better half. Physically speaking, I'm only half a man right now. I was a whole man when I had my woman, and now I'm a half a man. But even a half a man can serve God. And it was nice when we were serving God together. I had a godly woman, very godly woman. And she served God with her whole heart and her whole life. And she served me as my wife, as a good wife and whatever. So this, a tribute to her would be, man, if you have a good woman, treat her the best you possibly can. Because when she's gone, you'll remember the things you didn't do that you could have done. So do them now so you won't have regrets later. And treat that woman like she ought to be treated. And in your house, she's a goddess. In your house, she's a goddess. You are not to worship her. You are not to put her ahead of God. But she is in your house a goddess. And you need to take care of that goddess while you have her there. And so the Lord wants us to follow him. Verse 14, behold, the heavens and the heavens of heavens is the Lord's, thy God, and the earth also with all that is therein. Now, what he's saying is what mankind can see with his natural eye. What he can see with his natural eye is all God's. And what he can't see that's out beyond that is all God's. He said the heaven of heavens. That means all that is above this earth, anywhere out there. Only the Lord had a delight in their fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above all people, as it is this day. What is it in this day? As it is in this day is Jesus Christ, who went to the cross and died for you and I. Gave his life for you and I. We are to serve God through him. He is the Son of God, and he also was God in the flesh. And only the Lord had a delight in thy fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above all people, as it is this day. Now, we who are Christians are chosen above all the people who are not Christians. And if you want to be a Christian, you say, Jesus, I am a sinner. Forgive me of my sin. Come in my heart and save my soul. You will become a Christian. What is a Christian? A person who is Christ-like. So you'll have to get in the Bible. You'll have to start learning his word. You'll have to start following what he says. Verse 15, only the Lord has a delight in thy fathers to love them. 16. Let's go to 17. For the Lord your God is God of gods and the Lord of lords, a great God, a mighty and terrible, which regardeth not persons, nor taketh reward. Why is he saying he regardeth not persons? So I've been a Christian since 1972. But if I sin, I get slapped. If I sin, I take the penalty for it. When I sin, I take the penalty for that sin. And this is what he's saying. You're my child. And I'm not going to let you get away with doing things that you're not supposed to do. If I got a command that you do not do these things, you don't do them. For instance, before I was saved, I swore. I don't swear anymore. Before I was saved, I was a professed liar. I don't lie anymore. If I was a professed cheater, I don't cheat anymore. I was a professed alcoholic, I don't drink anymore. And so all those things have been laid aside, and I now am a new person. And that's what he's saying here. And look at verse 18. He doth execute the judgment of the fatherless and the widows, and loveth the stranger, and is giving him food and raiment. Now let me tell you something. God is watching over all of those that you and I might say, wow, that's a beggar. He might be a beggar, but he might be God's a beggar. God may be the one allowing people to give him stuff and to keep him going and everything. And we are to comfort those who are in need, and we are to give those who are in need of our good, not our bad. People can't bag up a bag of garbage and take it over there and give it to a poor person. He knows what people are giving. You're supposed to get in your canned food closet and get some of the best. Some of the Denny Moore beef soup. Some of the, I ate a can yesterday of tomato soup. It sure was good. And when you're a bachelor or by yourself, you learn to like a lot of things. And they're good. When you're hungry and you haven't got anything, you open that can of soup, it sure is good. And love ye therefore the stranger, for ye were strangers in the land at one time. Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God, him shalt thou serve, and to him shalt thou cleave and swear by his name. He is thy praise, and he is thy God, that has done for thee these great and terrible things which thine eyes have seen. Thy father went down into Egypt with 70 persons, and now the Lord thy God hath made thee as the stars of heaven for multitude. How about that? There is the stars of heaven for multitude. Well, our time is come and gone. We will see you next time. Be sure and be a testimony for the Lord Jesus Christ, that when we go to heaven, we'll be as the stars of heaven, as those Israelite children were. We will see you then. Bye-bye.